Okay, thank you, Claire. So the first section today, we're going to be talking about the power of peer-to-peer. So we're going to kick off with a panel with 4 fantastic careers leaders from across the sector, and they'll introduce themselves in a moment, and we'll have what should be a really engaging panel discussion. Then we've got a fantastic HEXU case study from the University of Liverpool. So Paul Graptrick from the University of Liverpool is going to be talking through that funded project and discussing exactly how that was delivered and some of the outcomes. And then we have got fantastic students talking about the work that they've been doing within their roles as peer-to-peer staff, sharing some of the absolutely brilliant outcomes that they've achieved. And that should be hugely inspiring. I'm really looking forward to that part. So we're now going to kick off with the panel. It should appear on screen soon. So we have Emma Moore from the University of Liverpool, Jane Campbell from the University of Leeds, Martin Perfect from the University of Staffordshire, and we will also have Ali Orr from Kingston University as well. I can't see him on my screen at the moment. What I'd like to do is kick off and firstly just ask you for approximately 60 seconds to talk through your peer-to-peer setup within your career service. So if I can come to you first, Emma.
Hi everyone. It sounds a bit echoey. We have 20 career coaches as part of our team at the University of Liverpool. We have they run off whole front line. We have a career studio where they're based. Usually at the moment we have a virtual career studio where students can drop in and ask them anything they like around careers. So they deal with the full range of career queries, anything from can you help me with my LinkedIn profile to I have no idea what I want to do.
Fantastic, thanks Emma. If I could come to you next, Martin, to give me a brief introduction about your setup at Staffordshire.
Yeah, good morning everybody. So my name's Martin from Staffordshire. I guess quite similar to Emma at Liverpool really. We've got 11 career coaches, obviously all of them of which are our current students. Each of them work 10 hours per week, obviously slotted around their studies. Again, we've got a career studio, and the studio itself is open 10 till 6 every day. There's no appointments, so it's purely drop-in. Students can physically turn up and wander in whenever they want, or as Emma pointed out there, at the moment it's virtual, so everybody is using either phone calls or Microsoft Teams. The coaches are trained on, I guess, the principles of coaching, really. So it's a slight step away from traditional advice and guidance, and more of a focus on coaching and how we can support students to, I guess, solve their own problems. And I guess the aim of the Career Studio and the peer-to-peer model is that we're trying to move students that small step forward from every interaction that they have with us.
Excellent, thanks Martin. If I can come to you next, Ali.
Thanks Mike, good morning everyone. I am head of the Careers and Employability Service at Kingston. We introduced our student career coordinators last year, so we had a pilot year last year. We've had student staff in various roles in the service for a number of years, but we formalised that last year with the recruitment of our coordinators. We've more than doubled that this year, so we've got 11, a full football team like Martin. They provide frontline support within the career service. They run drop-in sessions. They play a key delivery role in our careers festival and other programs. And they sit on our project groups internally as well to ensure that everything we're doing is sort of co-produced with students, and they're an integral part of our team.
Okay, excellent. So Jane, I know that your setup's slightly different, isn't it, at the University of Leeds? So if you could briefly take us through that.
Hi everyone. Yeah, we have slightly different way of looking at this at the moment. We've always employed students within our career centre, but we wanted to look at a slightly different approach. So we got funding from our educational engagement team, particularly to look at our widening participation students, and we created a graduate internship programme, but a very specific one to delivering and co-creating careers information and advice within our team. It was aimed at complementing and expanding the range of activities that we provide. 9 roles were created in the first year, and they provided dedicated employability support to students in faculties, along with working with our Lifelong Learning Centre, disability services, etc. They were recruited from a range of different courses, and they'd all graduated in the previous year, so they were very close to the university experiences. They were all trained by AGCAS and Grad Consult and internally on things like project management and the way we work. And they do, once they were in post, they work in our career centre virtually at the moment, but they worked in the centre physically at the start, aligned to a faculty where they spent 1 day a week, offer workshops, CV drop-in. They have a caseload of graduates because one of our aims was to support our graduates into roles and work with finalists, and they co-create with our staff on different platforms. This year we chose to do it slightly different after feedback from the first year, and we've got 4 graduates, but for 2 years rather than a 1-year period, because they wanted more time to do their own research and to actually develop the work that they were doing with us.
Okay, that's really, really interesting. I think that theme of co-creation comes through sort of really, really strongly, and some slightly different models. We've had the honour of sort of engaging with all of these groups of students, and they're absolutely fantastic students and brilliant ideas, and you know, it's amazing to see what they've been able to achieve as well in a relatively short time as well. So if I could sort of ask you to sort of think about, before you decided to launch this these schemes within your institutions, what was it that inspired you to introduce this methodology into your service? So if I can come to you first, Ali, for that one.
Yeah, so as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, and as Mike knows, because I've complained incessantly about it for months, we've been carrying several vacancies in the team that we were unable to recruit to. So on one level, we need to be really more creative about how we resource the service. But on a deeper level, as a university, student partnership should obviously permeate everything that we do. As a sector, we're quite good at being reactive to student feedback. We pour over NSS comments, module evaluations, and so on, and say, all right, what are we going to do about that? How are we going to fix it? But actually involving students from the very beginning as co-creators, co-designers is, you know, it's about being more proactive and not waiting for things to go awry. We're also WP University at Kingston, so 70–80% of our students are from widening participation backgrounds. We'd already successfully adopted academic mentors, inclusive curriculum consultants who work with academics to make their curriculum more inclusive. And we'd seen the real value that they added, and also in the gap that they closed between, so the gap between staff and students. Mike referred to the sort of the lack of diversity in career service and in the sort of staffing of the sector more widely, and that doesn't reflect the diversity that we see among our students. So bringing students in that are closer to obviously the demographic that we have and more reflective has had real benefits for our service and broken down some of the barriers. The fear factor that students feel about walking in can be quite intimidating just to take that first step in. So having our students as the front line has made a real difference there. But also to, as I say, to free up time for our advisors and other staff to sort of really devote to key projects and programs as well.
Excellent. And I think that, you know, that point around breaking down barriers at lots of different levels, both between staff and students, but also making it easier for students to sort of access the service and making them feel more comfortable, particularly as that sort of introduction to the service, could be hugely helpful. So I'm going to come to you, Martin, next.
Yeah, so from our perspective, the key trigger, I suppose, for us was around trying to get the balance right between doing one-to-one support and supporting students on a one-to-one basis, and trying to get into the curriculum and do as much delivery in the curriculum as possible. So at Staffordshire, we've got about 10 FTE that work in the career service, and we've got about 19,000 students. So I guess pretty quickly we realised that having those 10 staff members doing one-to-one appointments and trying to support students that way ultimately could only get us so far, really. So moving down the career studio and the career coach option meant that students could do all the one-to-one support, which again, as Ali touched on there, frees up those experienced career professionals to be able to go into the curriculum and do lots of the curriculum delivery that way. And for us, that was really the driver at Staffs, to try and get into the curriculum more and do one-to-many delivery as much as possible.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And Jane?
I think, like many universities, we already employed students in our career centre, staffing our front desk, helping students navigate the support available. We had a lot of programmes like our In Leeds programme and our BAME conference that are led every year by students. We worked very closely and do with our students' union. They co-created our employability framework with us. So we already knew the impact of working with students and co-creating with them and having them on our front desk could have. We have really good engagement. We deliver in the curriculum on over 30 odd modules. But like many universities, we weren't sure we were always reaching and engaging with the target group, with our widening participation group that we knew needed extra support. So that was some of the inspiration behind us wanting to take some graduates to specifically work with those groups and concentrate on those groups with us. So it was in support of our university access and participation plan that the idea evolved of, if we're going to do that, how do we do it? We looked at our experience of employing students and our student-led activities, and that was sort of part of the inspiration. Leeds has a number of successful peer-to-peer schemes, so we were also inspired by them. So it was a combination of all those things really that led us to think, if we're going to do this work, let's get some very recent grads in to help us reach those very hard to reach students.
Fantastic. And I think, you know, that point around sort of peer-to-peer being a model adopted across the institution in lots of different areas. And I think we have a keynote later from Julia Haas, who's going to be talking about how to try and link together some of those various peer-to-peer schemes that exist within the university, and particularly around sort of mental health and some of those themes as well, where peer-to-peer is a huge theme as well. So I'm going to come to you, Emma, finally.
Okay, so 2 years ago at Liverpool, we had the opportunity to completely look at everything that we did as a careers team and bring in some new ways of working. We were having similar challenges that others have mentioned: how to scale, how to be more engaging, how to be more friendly and welcoming. And so we researched lots of different models, but came across a career studio operating in Nevada in the States, and took a lot of inspiration from the way that they work. And that really inspired us to bring in our own team of career coaches to really speak to students in their own voice. Our old model was the feedback that we got was that it was very formal. We really wanted to make it informal and to sort of mimic the way that students find information in their everyday lives. A lot of students were telling us, if I want to find out how to do something, I won't go and seek advice from an expert, I'll just YouTube it and see how my peers do it. And so we really wanted to bring that sort of thinking into how we run careers.
Yeah. And it's obviously worth noting that a lot of structures and models of career services have been quite similar for maybe 50 to 100 years. So, you know, and obviously the world changes at a rapid rate. So thinking about sort of reframing and reimagining is obviously sort of, you know, a key theme at the moment for lots of career services. So I think we touched on quite a few of the benefits there, but what are some of maybe the unexpected benefits of adopting this approach that maybe you didn't initially conceive, but have been pleasantly surprised by? So if I can come to you, Jane, for that one.
Well, I think there's we have students have reported gaining competence to attend a bigger range of events. We've received following one-to-one support, that they've felt more able to develop an effective CV, produce effective job applications. We've seen a big increase in student engagement in our employability offer and comms. I think two things though. One is, because our focus has been very much on widening participation, we've seen a marked increase in equality, diversity and inclusivity conversations going on between colleagues across our service, across the faculties and the EPAs, so we call our student helpers EPAs, and they've helped us be much more collaborative actually. They've done a big campaign recently as a result of Black Lives Matter. They've sort of gone into conversations that some of my staff might have felt were difficult, and they're really pushing our staff to do this and to think wider and to think of the whole community. So that's been an absolutely fantastic outcome from the real focus that we've got in the team through these interns in terms of equality and diversity. And I think, just building on what some other people said, just the energy and new ideas into the service. So although we had students working with us, because the graduates are staff and they're treated as staff and they're in with us all the time, and are really silly very early on from the first cohort that we had. And I always tell this, so you may have heard it before, but I wanted to have a fridge magnet on every first year's fridge in halls. And I had these great ideas, you know, that might have a calendar on it, and might have something about careers on it. I went away on holiday and our EPAs looked at it, our employability progression assistants, I should say they're called. And I came back and I was presented with this fridge magnet that had a meme on of a cat. And I was like, what is that? How's anyone gonna know? And actually I had to stand back and accept that they were right. You know, mine was boring, theirs was what, you know, was interesting. It had some basic information and was much more likely to get an outcome than what I'd done. So it's just makes you stand back and think, and, you know, they just have brilliant ideas and energy, and the service is better for them.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of almost coming out with a fresh set of eyes, and not that sort of all that baggage of the sort of internal politics of how things must be done and how things have been done in the past and everything is actually a really, really powerful tool to sort of challenge our thinking, isn't it? I'm going to come to you next, Martin, if that's okay.
Yeah. So I like a statistic, which is always good to throw in there. So we launched in autumn term last year. And for that autumn term, we had a 94% increase in student engagement. And people often ask, what was the reason behind that? Why did that happen? And I think it's a couple of reasons. One is obviously because we got staff members delivering more in curriculum. So they can obviously talk to students about their career studio more. So I guess it gets the message out more and more. Students also within the career studio take ownership of that studio. You know, so they, you know, as we all do as career professionals, get really annoyed and frustrated with students for not engaging with us. To hear students get annoyed and frustrated with other students for not engaging with all the amazing support that's available is also good to hear. But I guess what they bring to the party is they bring that inside knowledge of how to communicate with and engage with other students as well. So yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant for us at Staffs, the difference it's made. And comments I get from people within my team at the moment is we've never felt so close to the students, because constantly students are feeding information into us about everything that's going on. I think we feel, you know, hugely part of the student community now, whereas before we were kind of this separate service that was tucked away, hidden away out the back, that I think people were scared to come near ultimately.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it sort of signifies like quite a cultural shift in terms of sort of mindset and how you think, and that sort of breaking down of barriers again is massive, isn't it? So if I can come to you, Emma, next, please.
Yeah, one really great thing that we always talk about is none of our careers team ever have to make cringy videos about careers anymore, because we have a brilliant group of students who can speak in their own voice. Our social media content has been elevated to an absolutely brilliant level by all the content that they produce. That really helped us actually when we went into lockdown. We were able to have our coaches still produce videos that were really current. about topics that would engage the students. Another thing that's really struck us is how the effect this has had on our institutional profile. You'll see some of our coaches are going to be speaking later on in the day, and they are just brilliant ambassadors for us. Everybody wants our coaches to speak at their events, whether it's the Institutional Learning and Teaching Conference or the university's leadership forum. That they're in such demand, but it's really helped with the profile for my team. So yeah, that has been one of the sort of major benefits for us. The other thing is the talent pipeline into our team. So we're now 2 years down the line. We've got 2 coaches working in full-time jobs as part of our team, but we've also had coaches go on to work across the sector in recruitment teams and in other sort of providers. So that is really, really beneficial to bring new talent, I think, into our sector.
Fantastic. And Ali?
Yeah, so I agree with everything that's been said, and particularly the point, I think, about being able to speak authentically to students. And I think some of the feedback we'd had was that sometimes we try to be a bit too professional, and that's quite off-putting for students. But then if you try to be fun, then obviously you risk getting it horribly wrong. And our students absolutely help us to sort of be in tune with that. Also, what's been really, really beneficial is an understanding of what's going on within their schools and faculties, within their courses, and sort of how they experience employability. And they're massive advocates for embedding employability in the curriculum for us. And so sort of that student voice to emphasize the importance of, you know, to demonstrate what students actually want has been hugely beneficial. Thinking about how we ensure that the digital resources that we have reach more students, they've been hugely beneficial in helping us expand the reach. I think with Ab Integro, we saw numbers go up 100% in terms of unique users, and then in terms of what people actually do in Ab Integro, apart from getting totally lost, they've had about 300% increase in the number of activities, and they've certainly been a large part of driving that. And little things as well, like for example, we involve them in our interviews for recruiting new staff into the service, and having the student careers coordinators on interview panels has been priceless, actually, as well.
Excellent, thank you very much. So as a final question to you all, what sort of one piece of advice would you have for other services considering developing a peer-to-peer offering? So if I can come to you first, Jane, for this one.
I think I would say carefully consider your institution's aims, objectives, timescales, resourcing, and ensure key stakeholders within the university are engaged from the outset, so they're able to input into the planning and development. And for us, it was really important that the programme that we put in place for our EPAs was a developmental graduate scheme almost. So we didn't just bring them in, do a bit of training and then set them loose. It's an ongoing process. And I suppose I'd finish on that first one. Have a look at what other institutions are doing, look what we're doing. Liverpool, I looked at what lots of different people were doing, but really you've got to do the programme based on your institution and what will work in your institution. So yes, do take really good ideas, but really think about your own institution when you do that, and think about the development of the students or graduates in our case, of the development that they get when they're with you. So it's not just about them doing for you, you're actually supporting them through their journey as well.
Thanks very much, Jane. Fantastic advice. If I can come to you next, Martin.
Yeah, so I guess my one piece of advice would probably be around that when we were considering moving across to this model, there's lots of what ifs that people ask you, and lots of what ifs that kind of jump into your head. And absolutely, you've got to consider all of those what ifs, haven't you? But what I would say is don't let those what ifs become barriers. So, you know, we had questions around, you know, what if academics don't refer students to careers anymore because they think it's being run by students? What if other students won't listen to students? What if they want to speak to an expert? What are you going to do then? And, you know, I probably could have written a list of 30 or 40 what ifs. What if this happened? But actually, you take the leap of faith, and what we found is none of those what ifs have come true. You know, what if you can't find loads of good career coaches? Oh my God, the career coaches are absolutely amazing. They're the best thing that we've ever done. And certainly if you speak to members of my team now, they don't want to go back. They don't want to go back to the old model anymore. So obviously consider the what ifs, but make sure that they don't become barriers to doing something different.
Yeah, and I think when we're going to be doing sessions later with some of the alumni as well, and you know, there was you know, the things they've gone on to do are absolutely fantastic, and you know, a lot of them aren't available because they're far too important now, starting graduate schemes, working in amazing roles, and absolutely fantastic students. And I've met groups from all of these universities, and they are absolutely incredible. And you know, it's been one of the most inspiring parts of my job to be able to interact with them. And yeah, really, really brilliant. So I'm going to come to you, Ali.
Yeah, I mean, much of it's been said, really, hasn't it? I mean, we sort of took the view, you know, what's the worst that could happen here? You've got to take a bit of a risk here and a leap of faith, as Martin said, and really invest the time, the development time in the students, and you'll get it back multiple times in return. I think what's been great is to see the sort of the cohort identity of the students and how they work together and support each other. There are some teething problems initially. There will be, you know, some students will take to the roles easier than others, but those students will support the others who are struggling slightly. And one of the things that students did sort of off their own back was to develop their own code of conduct early on, which was sort of set expectations of themselves and each other in terms of professionalism. And that's proven very helpful as well. But I think you'll see, if you're in any doubts at all, you'll see the students and the alumni later. And I think any doubts you had will go away completely.
Okay, and finally to you, Emma.
Okay, for me, I think it's really important, just to echo what Jade said, to not just take someone else's model and lift it directly into your university, because it really does have to fit with everything else that's going on. Also, for us, spend a lot of time on recruitment, because that is really important. You know, you really do need certain skills to work as a career coach. So really investing in that recruitment process is really important. And again, spend a lot of time on development too. Our coaches do a full 2-week training program, and then they also have regular training. They're given a mentor within the team, and they have one-to-one feedback on their interactions. They're observed every 2 weeks, interacting with students and giving feedback to develop. So it's really important to invest in them in that way. And also it's really, really important to make them part of the team and really fully immerse them in everything that you do, you know, and push them as well, because they are really, really capable and you know, will surprise you.
Awesome. Thanks very much. It's been a brilliant conversation and a great introduction to the event, and to provide some of the context and some of the excellent work that's going on in the sector. So thank you very much for your time. I can't wait to hear from your awesome students later on in the day. It's going to be fantastic, and really appreciate you joining us today for this panel.